Hello and welcome or welcome back to this channel. My name is Sarah. So spring is just around the corner, and I think by the time this video goes up it will be spring. And so I wanted to share with you what I made over the winter time. I didn't get to as many projects as I originally anticipated just because I have a wedding coming up in about 6 weeks. I'm working on my wedding dress, and I am also filming while I'm working on it so that I can share that with you later. Don't worry, I will share later. It's just that right now it's a secret because my fiance and guests watch this channel. But I do have a lot of content coming up, and yeah, at the moment I have a whole lot of stuff going on. I'm working a second job as a teacher on the side. This will be my last year because I've discovered that it takes a lot of creative energy, and I would like to put that creative energy elsewhere, for example this channel. And yeah, so I've reached my limit of how much I can do at a time, and now I'm trying to cut back. But anyway, this is a temporary period. I will be back soon, but it's really stressful. So yeah, I'm working on my wedding. I'm getting married in 6 weeks, and I wanted to, with this video as well as talk about my winter makes, launch a Q&A because I wanted to share this event with you, not only how I'm making my wedding dress later, but also the event in general. I am a dual French and American citizen. I've been living in France for about 14 years now, and I've been with my fiance for 10 years, and so our wedding will correspond with our 10-year anniversary, which is really special. But he is also French. We are going to be getting married in the north of France where he's from, and there are so many different layers to a wedding, such as even the small details as to what we're going to be eating, where it's going to take place, what kind of music are we choosing to play, and all kinds of wedding traditions and cultural things that come from American or French cultures that we're trying to blend. I grew up in the United States, and so I identify a little bit more with American culture when it comes to weddings versus French culture, although I appreciate it a lot, and we're going to be having a good fusion of American and French weddings. And so yeah, if you have any questions about that, I will be doing a Q&A video after this one, probably working on my veil at the same time because I need to take as much time as I can to sew. And also, if you have any assumptions about me, those of you who have been following me on Instagram for a while, you might know me a little bit better, or my kind of makes and my personality. And I would be interested in seeing what kind of traditions you think that I am planning in this wedding, or what kind of hopes and fears, or yeah, what kind of aspects I want to include in my wedding based on American or French cultures as you interpret it. And so yeah, I'd be really interested in seeing what you think. And so yeah, let me know in the comments below or on Instagram. I will definitely be launching that there as well. But yeah, I'm really excited to share this event with you and everything around it. It's taking up a lot of energy and a lot of time, but it's such a joyful event. I'm so happy to be planning it, and I'm happy to share it with you soon. So on the topic of the clothes that I made over the winter time, I didn't end up making as much as I thought I would, just because I didn't have the time or creative energy to do it. So I ended up making a lot of basics, which I'm really happy about as well. I think that even though they are basics, it does show you what I turn to when I'm looking for a quick sew, or what are staples in my wardrobe, especially in the wintertime. So I ended up making, I think, 6 garments, and let me share those with you now. The first garment I'd like to share with you is this Seamwork Clark top that had been sitting in a pile of WIPs, or works in progress, since 2019. I think I mentioned it in my winter sewing plans video, which I will link as well. But yeah, this one was a hassle. Mainly because, so the problem I have with Seamwork patterns is that their smallest size is a little bit roomy on me. So for example, I have a 31.5-inch bust, and their size 0, their smallest size, starts at a size 33-inch bust, and so it's just a little bit awkward on me, the smallest size, and I can't be bothered to grade down all the time. It takes so much time. But anyway, I cut a size 0, and the main problem with this one, actually the neckline sits pretty well. It's mostly the sides. So I ended up taking out 5 centimeters of excess fabric from the hem, and then grading that down from the side seam so that it wasn't directly just straight up and down. But if you can imagine, this was kind of triangular, and 5 centimeters even larger here. And so there was way too much excess fabric, because I'm mostly going to wear this top gathered into skirts or jeans, and even now you can see it's a little bit bulky, and it kind of flattens the bust and puts all the bulk here at the waist for me, just because I have a smaller bust and I have a hollow chest here, and so it's kind of like it rounds out around my waist, which is not flattering on me. I think it's okay now, but before it was definitely way too much fabric. And so what I actually did, and what was a shame, and this is why it sat in my pile for such a long time, is because I French seamed the insides, because this fabric was really hard to work with. It frayed a lot. It has this sparkly content, so it wasn't very nice to touch. It's a little bit scratchy on the outside, not on the inside, it's very soft. But it's a polyester and viscose blend, and the polyester means that it's very bouncy, and so you cannot press this fabric, which is why the side seams are pretty bulky. I don't know if I hadn't French seamed it, it would be fraying all over the place because it frayed a lot, and so this fabric was extremely difficult to work with. I ended up French seaming as much as possible, and so I had to unpick the French seams, cut the side seams, and then redo the French seams. I'm not entirely happy about the way it turned out. You can kind of see the seams are very bulky here. It's just because the fabric's very bouncy and it doesn't press. And I think that the beige, sort of light coffee, like milk coffee color of it isn't entirely complimentary on me, but I'm thinking maybe this summer I'll wear it more or maybe with a cardigan over it. I'm not sure. But anyway, I have this. It's sparkly, it's fun. I'll have it for New Year's or for a special event in the future, and I'll figure out how to wear it. I think that it will become something useful in my wardrobe, even if it's a little bit more floaty around the waist than I would like. But yeah, I'm happy to have finished it, and this is the final result. So the second and third makes were very basic stretchy tops that I've made before, many times before, and I made it with this gray cotton jersey, kind of light, almost slubby cotton jersey from Tissus de Rêve, which I mentioned in my winter sewing plans video as well. And I very happily was able to get 2 garments out of it. So this is the Wanted Tee by Vanessa Pouzet, and I made a size 32, I think. And then this is the Edie top. It's a little bit wrinkled. This fabric wrinkles so easily. By Sew Over It, and I really love this top as well. This is probably my 3rd or 4th Edie top for the bateau neckline and just how easy it is to wear. And then I also really like the Wanted Tee for the square neckline, although it does kind of bow a little bit at the shoulders, not very nicely in this fabric. And I find that that's the hardest part of this pattern, is because you have to get the stretch right, and yeah, it doesn't always sit very nicely at the neckline. But yeah, I think that these 2 tops are very basics. They're very casual as well because of the color and the consistency of the jerseys, so I probably won't be wearing these to work, but as pajamas or around the house, or just really casually, like on the weekends with jeans. I do have to be careful with this kind of fabric because this color shows sweat very easily. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's just that the hemlines, they roll very easily. Let me show you. I pressed this earlier, and see how the hemline kind of rolls very easily. It just creates this very casual look. So yeah, I probably won't wear these out of the house. And for €5 for a meter and two tops, I think that's pretty good. It's just they're not the best quality fabric, and so yeah, it's a bit thin, a little bit itchy, but it works. So the next 2 projects I made out of this really beautiful dark plum or wine colored Ponte Roma from Minerva. This fabric was gifted in exchange for an article on their website, and I will link that below so you can go check it out with all the details, because I do include lots and lots of details in those articles. This fabric is really cool actually, because usually Ponte Roma is 100% polyester, but this is actually 60% viscose, but it presents like a Ponte Roma double knit, which if you don't know is a much more stable, thicker knit that's very easy to work with if it's your first time working with a stretch fabric and a stretch pattern. So I would highly recommend this sort of fabric for beginners who want to try working with stretch fabrics, just because it's much easier to work with. Your machine is much less likely to eat this fabric, and it doesn't stretch out as much, or it doesn't, yeah, it just doesn't pucker and things like that, so it's much easier to work with. I always use a lightning stitch to stitch with Ponte Roma fabrics. This is a narrow and longer zigzag stitch that I have on my machine. It's very useful for Ponte and for knits. So this fabric was really easy to work with. The only downside of working with viscose is that it does wrinkle. So I do have to iron this in between washes, but presses really well, and so I can use a good amount of heat without having to use a pressing cloth. It doesn't get all shiny underneath the iron, which can sometimes happen with polyester fabrics, and it takes steam really well too. Also, what's interesting about a Ponte Roma fabric with viscose in it is that it doesn't hold odors as well. So usually with my sweater dresses, because I love wearing sweater dresses, this is also a heather dress, by the way, from Sew Over It that I'm wearing today. It's the same exact dress. But this one is, for example, 100% polyester fabric, and it holds onto odor, so you have to watch it after every wear, and you have to be careful how much you sweat in it. But I noticed wearing this one with the 60% viscose content, it holds onto odors a lot less, and so that's very, very useful, and yeah, I appreciate that. And so the only thing that I had a hard time with this one is that it's much clingier and a little bit stretchier than I thought it would be. There's a lot more drape to it, and so you can't see it here, but I'll insert a video of me wearing it. At the hem, it kind of hangs or it drapes a little bit more than a regular 100% polyester Ponte fabric would. I think it looks a little bit unfortunate in the back. I still have a little bit of excess fabric in the back, just because this dress isn't also supposed to be bodycon or close to the body. It does hang a little bit, or it kind of clings to my hands when I put them in the pockets, but I do like wearing it. It's very, very soft, but I think for this fabric, I would definitely recommend a tighter fit, or to take advantage of the drape, a looser fit, and not something in between like this one. For example, it would make a great loose t-shirt or something like this. So I was able to get 2 garments out of this fabric. I got 2 meters from Minerva, and it's such a wide fabric that I was able to also cut out this Seamwork Astoria sweater. And I really like using this Astoria sweater whenever I have extra fabric, or making this whenever I have extra fabric, just because it takes maybe half a meter of fabric. It really doesn't take very much fabric at all. And I lengthened the sleeves of this Astoria sweater about 3 inches, I think, because I wanted it to come past the elbow versus above the elbow like the pattern was originally designed. I find it a little bit more flattering, and I noticed that this fabric is much better in this garment, for example, because it's a little bit tighter, it's a little bit closer to the body, and because it has a little bit of elastane in it as well, it sits really nicely against the body. And because of that elastane, I also had problems with the neckline with the heather dress, so you can see it's still a little bit ripply here. It's not sitting exactly close to my mannequin here. But this is after I shortened the neckband even more than the pattern called for, just because it had such a stretch, and it was a little bit, I don't know, not looser, but it relaxed a little bit more. I had to unpick it, which is very, very difficult with Ponte fabrics. It took me a very long time without cutting into the fabric, and shorten the neckband, I think 2 centimeters, and sew it back on. And so now it looks a little bit better. Oh no, I did that with this one. I did that with the Astoria sweater. Oh my goodness. I probably should do that with this one. You can kind of see it's a little bit loose. But anyway, yeah, and now it fits really well. I highly recommend both these patterns. These are fantastic basics, especially the Astoria sweater with a high-waisted pant or skirt, or with a dress to mark the waist. I'm wearing it with a Vogue wrap dress. I can't remember the number of it, but I will put the reference in the description below. And I love wearing Astoria sweaters in the wintertime. It's fantastic. And this color is special to me as well, because we picked it as one of our wedding colors, this dark plum color, because it looks good on both me and my fiance. It's, I think, a good blend of maybe feminine and a little bit more subtle and neutral of a color. It's not as girly like a light pink or something, and so, but we will have light pink as well. But I really love this color. I think it'll look really nice with the brick details of the place we're getting married in the north. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. That's it for these two. I really like them. I think I will wear them very much in the future, probably not in the spring and summer, but more in the fall, because it's more of a fall color. But yeah, I really like these, and let me show you the next one. So my last project this winter was definitely in anticipation for the spring, because it's more of a spring top, and this is the Adeline wrap top by Forget Me Nots Patterns, and I made it with this 100% viscose from Pretty Mercery. I bought it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, so you probably won't be able to find it there anymore. But yeah, it was definitely a little bit difficult to work with, but totally worth it. It's very soft, and I think it turned out well. This pattern was actually gifted to me in exchange for an Instagram post and photos for their marketing, but I bought the fabric, everything, and the opinion is my own. And I really appreciated getting to know this company. I didn't know that they existed before, and it was fairly simple to follow the directions. I think the thing that complicates directions is that you have so many different possibilities with this top. For example, there's a shawl collar option. I made the basic plain neck option. There are 2 different sleeve lengths. I made the elbow length sleeve, and there's also a cap sleeve option. And then you can either do a plain sleeve or a little pleat at the sleeve, and I chose to do the pleat because I thought that was really pretty detail. And then you can either make a top or a dress. So there are so many different versions that you have for each step, each of the different versions, and so it's a little bit complicated, but as long as you keep to the right version in the steps, it's fine, and everything's very well explained. The illustrations are very easy to follow, and so I do recommend these patterns, and this pattern in particular. I didn't have any trouble making it. I think the trickiest part of this pattern was the pleats. So there are pleats here at the side and also in the back, and they were definitely a little bit difficult to sew up and keep accurate with this fabric, just because this fabric moved around and was very slippery. But that's definitely my fault and my choice to use this fabric. I would actually recommend a light and floaty fabric for this, so this is probably more of an intermediate sew. And yeah, I like that the wrap top stays closed. It stays pretty close to the body without squeezing. Some wrap tops can kind of cut into your chest when it's trying to stay close to the body, and this fits really nicely. I can move around and it doesn't gape open. It's really nice. I like the peplum, the sort of like understated peplum style of the skirt here to the top. And yeah, oh, and also I decided to make bias tape out of the same fabric that I made the top in, and I used a Closet Core Patterns tutorial of continuous bias tape, which I always go back to. I use it all the time. I will link it in the description below so that you can follow it as well, and it's really, really handy. I had a little bit of extra fabric, and so yeah, I made my own bias tape, and I finished all of the seams on the interior that way. So there are very clean finishes to all of them. There are facings here, and it was a little bit more of an involved make, but I'm really happy with the results. And yeah, I think it turned out well. I made a size 30, which corresponds to my bust size, but not my hips. My hips are a bit larger for the 30, but because there is this extra space in the peplum part of the top, there's plenty of space for my hips. And so I based it on my bust size, and I recommend that you do too. So yeah, this turned out well. I'm really happy with this top, and I think that this color suits me well as well. I think that the style with the peplum is a little bit outside of my comfort zone, as well as maybe not the color, but the print, because it's a little bit flowery. So it's slightly outside of my comfort zone, but I'm going to try and wear it. I missed St. Patrick's Day, that would have been perfect. But I'm going to try and wear it this spring and see how I feel in it. I think it'll go really well with high-waisted pants or skirts. And yeah, I'm excited. So that's everything that I made this winter, and I'm happy with the amount of basics that I have added to my wardrobe, just because they're very useful, they're staples. I didn't get as much done as I thought I would, but I'm still content with what I got done, especially because I had so many different projects going on, taking up teaching again, going to Taipei and Tokyo for work, and that definitely takes a lot out of me mentally and physically, and usually I need a little bit of both to sew. And so now I've been working full swing on my wedding dress. I will have no plans this spring to work on anything else, because I do have a few things planned around my wedding that I want to make as well. I'm afraid to say them out loud because I might not be able to get to them, but I definitely want to make the wedding dress that I will be wearing at the town hall ceremony as well, because we'll have 2 separate ceremonies, town hall and then our own. And then I wanted to make a robe, but we'll see. I might not get everything done, and I think that's okay. As long as I get the wedding dress done, that's the essential part. But yeah, don't hesitate to leave any questions or assumptions you have about this event below. I would very much like to hear what you think about this event, or what you want to know about it, in case you're curious, such as what we're eating, what we're going to do, what kind of traditions we're going to honor. And yeah, I'm excited to share that with you soon. I hope that you have lots of interesting projects going on. Oh, and I have left all of the patterns and fabrics, if they're available, in the description below, just in case you want to try them out yourself or try sewing them yourselves. And so yeah, I hope that you have lots of interesting projects going on, that you are keeping well. So take care, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.